As the treaty gets closer to ratification, we have been working hard at the negotiating table to get the best deal for Comox. After many years, Comox, the Government of British Columbia, and the Government of Canada have all agreed to the conditions in this treaty, with only a few outstanding issues, and these are expected to be resolved soon. When the Comox Treaty is ready for ratification, Comox people must decide whether to accept the treaty. If we vote yes, we will move forward with preparations to implement the treaty. The Comox Treaty will be a living agreement that can be updated and renewed over time. Comox members will continue to keep their Indian status. They will also continue to receive programs and services provided by Indian Affairs. In addition, Comox members will still be Canadian citizens and will be eligible for programs and services to which all Canadians are entitled. Comox Aboriginal rights, including Aboriginal title and the inherent right to self-government, are recognized and affirmed and will be exercised as agreed to in the treaty. The treaty will clearly state that existing rights are not extinguished, surrendered, or modified. There is no extinguishment, there is no modification. Periodic renewal allows for the three governments, Comox, British Columbia, and Canada, to reopen parts of the treaty to renegotiate every 10 years. This includes a Comox II clause. This means that if there was a provision that was previously missed in the initial treaty, it can be added to the treaty during periodic renewal. Periodic renewal also allows changes to the treaty that may arise due to unforeseen circumstances, including changes to the environment. This allows for all treaties to evolve with the ever-changing world. This is why it's referred to as a living agreement. Consultation is required by common law for any activities that affect people's ability to exercise their rights or impact Comox lands. If a new Aboriginal right is established through the courts, and if Comox can establish that it had that right historically, then it can be added to the treaty.
Comox will be self-governing and no longer under the Indian Act. We will have our new governance authority and be responsible for making our own governance decisions, including laws. We have developed our own constitution for our new government to follow. For more information on the Comox Constitution, please see our Constitution Summary booklet. The Comox government can make laws to preserve, protect, and develop our culture and language. We can also make laws to protect heritage sites on our lands and rename geographical features in our territory according to provincial law. BC will be returning Comox artifacts currently held in BC and Canadian museums.
If the Comox members vote yes to the treaty, Comox will own all its current reserves and the land agreed to in the treaty. The Comox land base will increase substantially, and we will be one of the largest landowners in the territory. Comox lands include reserve lands, KFN privately owned lands, Crown land, and pre-approved additions such as woodlots. This is a total of approximately 12,500 acres. Comox will have the ability to add new lands in the future. These lands will come to Comox in 2 phases. A majority of the lands will come to Comox when the treaty comes into effect, while the rest will come gradually as pre-approved additions to Comox lands. The land area will increase substantially, from the current Comox reserve lands, which combined are only 813.5 acres. With private ownership of land, we can register our land with the Provincial Land Registry. Registered land has higher value, provides certainty, can be mortgaged, and has much better economic advantages and opportunities for the owner. Comox will have ownership of roads that pass over Comox lands. It will be Comox's responsibility to maintain these roads and provide access to Comox lands for repairing and maintaining roads. Comox can make laws for traffic, transportation, and parking on treaty settlement land. Crown corridors, such as Dyke Road, continue to be under the jurisdiction of British Columbia. Comox has the right to hunt wildlife, migratory birds, and to gather plants and timber for food, social, and ceremonial purposes throughout the Comox territory. Any limitations on that right will be included in this chapter. This is referred to as the right to harvest. Comox can participate in land use planning outside of our treaty lands. BC and Canada will consult with the Comox government before making decisions about resource management and development. We have also agreed that some Comox lands would be protected in perpetuity as Comox tribal parks.
Comox will be able to co-manage the important watersheds throughout our traditional territory, excluding private lands, by negotiating shared governance arrangements. With these shared governance arrangements, as well as revenue sharing, we will be able to make decisions over and benefit from the natural resources within our traditional territory.
Comox will be consulted and have input before decisions are made about major development and the management of resources in Comox traditional territory. Comox will have the right to participate in environmental assessments of all major projects. No federal or provincial project will take place on Comox lands without Comox consent. Comox will own all forest and resources on Comox lands and have access to monumental cedars for cultural purposes such as building canoes, totem poles, big houses, longhouses, and community buildings. We also anticipate that negotiations will provide Comox with a total allowable annual cut of approximately 100,000 cubic meters, taking into account all of the Comox forestry resources.
Comox will have constitutionally protected access to surface water and groundwater, which we will set out as water reservations. Water will be vital to the future of Comox development. This chart sets out the volumes of water from different rivers and streams that are reserved for Comox. As a Comox treaty will provide the Crown with increased predictability around the ownership of lands and resources within the Comox territory, Comox will have increased benefits from the revenues from our natural resources, including revenue sharing related to forestry, mining activities, and energy resources.
The fiscal chapter sets out the commitment for governments to provide fiscal financing agreements, or FFAs, to Comox. FFAs will replace annual funding agreements between Indigenous Services Canada and Comox. The fiscal relationship will also address three major concerns of Comox. Number one, ensuring there will be enough funds to be ready for self-government. Number two, ensuring there are enough funds to pay for the actual activities of governing. And number three, ensuring that all the program funding currently received by Comox continues. Recently, Comox received a land cash offer from BC and Canada. Canada was only able to make a partial offer at that time and have gone back to their systems to conclude their offer to bring back to Comox. And this will happen over the next several months. The agreement in principle contemplated a capital transfer of $17.5 million minus $4 million for the Sage Hills lands. Comox will have a taxation chapter in the Comox Treaty. Until recently, governments required a phase-out period of tax exemption of 8 to 12 years for First Nations who have entered the treaty process. Recently, there has been a new decision come out from the federal government that allows First Nations, including Comox members, to keep their tax exemption after treaty. Comox will be able to enter into tax agreements with the government to be able to collect taxes from non-member residents and businesses on Comox lands. All revenues from Comox taxation will go towards the betterment of the Comox community.
Essentially, what the chapter does is it says all people of Comox ancestry and all Comox band members and their descendants will be eligible to enroll in the Comox Treaty. But recently, we have proposed a model where the eligibility criteria will be set out in the Comox Constitution, and that Constitution, including the criteria, can be amended by Comox members by way of a constitutional amendment. So this will give Comox control over membership, which is an essential component of self-government and self-determination recognized by the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Coral McKay has been just wonderful in helping us with the E&E criteria and with the various processes that will have to be put in place to enroll members, and her help has been just invaluable in all of this.
There will be changes that come into effect once the treaty is completed. Comox will no longer be an Indian Act band and will have self-government and a much broader range of responsibilities and opportunities. To be formally ratified, we have proposed that the treaty requires that at least 50% plus one of eligible voters on the official voters list vote, and 50% plus one of those who vote are in favor of ratification of the treaty. This is still under negotiation. Voters must be at least 18 years old and enrolled to vote. When approved, the treaty will then be signed by Comox, BC, and Canada. An implementation plan will be developed to lay out a plan to guide the parties in carrying out responsibilities and activities that arise from the treaty, and for an implementation committee to discuss the implementation of the treaty. Implementation begins on the effective date and will be in accordance with the implementation plan that has a 10-year term.